This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Arkansas Athletics, touchdown radio, perfect game, and Mr. Airline Miles, too. Brett, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, guys. Good to talk to you. It's always a fun part of my week to talk a little ball with you, too.
That's right. Yeah, I got to get your opinion on these permanent baseball opponents first, because we just had Ryan. We had Ryan in Prairie Grove ask about it a moment ago. Arkansas gets Ole Miss and Mizzou. It's not a sexy matchup against Mizzou, but I don't really think it's a bad thing for the baseball program because Mizzou's just not very good on an annual basis.
There would be some wins involved in that rivalry, if there is such a thing, I would think. But it does feel like Arkansas might be prisoner to the fact that it's hard to find a couple of teams to lock Missouri in every year because they really don't have the baseball tradition that other schools do, and they're kind of out there on their own little geographic outpost. But correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, doesn't LSU and Ole Miss, they're not rivals either, right? And Ole Miss really feels like they're a pretty good rival of LSU baseball-wise, so they can't be thrilled either.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, Ole Miss got Mississippi State and the Razorbacks. LSU also got Mississippi State and A&M. But look, this is also this is a conversation you'll end up having during once whatever the SEC schedule looks like when it does come out. And if it's a 7-1 model, which I don't know, the more I hear from coaches and read about it, I think that 8-game model may end up being the thing. I thought they'd go to 9, but some of these annual rivalries will go away.
There's no doubt. I mean, they will in every sport, right? I mean, I've been going through the college football scheduling mottos, and in the Big Ten, I think you'll play every team 2 times in 5 years, and that's terrible. You're going to lose some games that were played on a regular basis. I think the Big 12 is going to be you play every opponent 2 times in 4 years. So it's only natural then baseball is going to be a victim of it. The problem is baseball rivalries are sometimes different than football rivalries, which is, I guess, only adding more complications to the issue. But you're right. We're going to see this at every league at every level because there's just too darn many teams and too few weekends.
Before we get into a little football, I saw that you on the call with the Arkansas basketball game last week, and I want to get your thoughts on Trevion Brazil and how you think the Hogs look this year.
Well, this has been fun to watch this team over the last few weeks practice, and I don't get to sneak over there every day, Matt, but I will from time to time, and it just feels different than years past. And I don't want to be accused of, drinking the Kool-Aid too early, but I mean, there's experience. The main thing is they have shooters, and Trevon's a big part of that. I think Trevon would have been the best three-point shooter on that team last year, in addition to his highlight dunks and whatnot. And I mean, the accolades he's getting for being a potential lottery pick, he's earned it. He's got that type of ability. But the other pieces around him, Matt, are exciting because I think Muss's strategy is, and maybe I'm wrong, but go out and get 3 of the same guy. And if one guy's going through a shooting slump, you got 2 more just like him. And, you've got so much depth. You've got shot makers. I really think it's going to be a fun team to watch this season.
I think it's I kind of correlated to they went out and got a Sam Hartman and a Bo Nix. They went and got some guards that have quarterbacks that have played and seen a lot of reps. They're not necessarily your Anthony Black, your Jordan Wall. I mean, they're not necessarily going to go play in the NBA. I don't see these guys but neither do I see Bo Nix or Sam Hartman. But at the college level, man, these guards, I mean, they're really good.
I think that's a really good analogy in the way you broke that down because we saw 3 guys get drafted by Arkansas last year, but I think the kids coming in as transfers, I shouldn't say kids, they're grown adults, they're 22, 23-year-olds, they might be a little further along from a college basketball standpoint as far as production, even though they may not have the ceiling to be in the NBA. But as far as Muss is concerned, I know he loves to produce NBA talent, but darn it, he wants to win a Final Four. And I was at shoot-around the other day, and the one thing he mentioned when he called the team into their huddle before they went to their lunch is, you've got to have a Final Four hunger. And he goes, this is not easy to get there, but every day, every practice, every game has to be with the mindset, that's our goal. And there aren't many teams in the country, I don't believe, that can talk about getting to a Final Four now and make it a realistic part of what they want to practice and play for.
What'd you make of the women's game the next night? When I was doing my prep and reading up on ULM, this is not the program that has annually lost 22 games over the last 5 years. They gave Mike's team everything they could handle and then some. And I was impressed by the way Arkansas played in that ball game, especially, man, I think Talia Scott, we're if you haven't had a chance, and I've only watched her in one game, we got her for 4 years probably, hopefully 4 years. She's good. I can see her setting records at this school. What do you think?
She'll be the best that ever played here. And I don't have the context of those that played before her 15 or 20 years ago, but I sat down with her a couple of weeks ago, and I texted Mike Neighbors, and I said, I feel like I'm talking to a 10-year WNBA vet. And he goes, there's a reason for that. And I saw Coach Neighbors coming out of the arena the other night after that game, Phil, and I said, hey, it's going to be real hard to downplay number 0 if she keeps doing that. And he goes, I don't think there's any need to downplay it. And I said, good, because we're not going to, because, I mean, this is a young lady that went to a Steph Curry camp in August. And guess who won the three-point competition? With all the boys and all the girls, it was her. She's taking notes, and she's trying to figure out how to be, the best. She's watching Caitlin Clark. She's watching Agumbawale in the WNBA. And there's a reason. I mean, her goal is to be a superstar, and I think she's well on her way.
Brett, we got a lot of big games in the SEC, but first I want to get your thoughts. Now, everybody we've talked to is not given Penn State a chance. Give me a way Penn State could beat Michigan. Now, you've seen both these teams in person this year, right?
I have, and it's funny. I checked the weather this morning just to see if maybe Penn State was going to get some rain or whatnot. It seems to rain every time I'm there. It's supposed to be 45 and clear. I bet they haven't mowed the grass at Beaver Stadium in 2 weeks. They want to get that turf team into a little slog of a game. The one thing about James Franklin, we know he hasn't won the big game. I think he's got talent, Matt, and I think they can cause some problems for Michigan running the football. What I don't know is can they stop J.J. McCarthy? And I think this game's going to come down to J.J. because this is his chance. We haven't locked in on a Heisman favorite yet. He would seem to be in the top 3. Can he go out there and be really impressive on the road, push his team way up in the college football playoff rankings because they haven't played anybody yet, and kind of make a statement? I don't think we'll see a wild, high-scoring game. I think these defenses are too good, but it's hard for me to get off the Michigan bandwagon yet. I mean, they've given up, I think, less than 7 points a game, and they haven't played anybody. But the one thing they've done this year is they played their defensive linemen 25 snaps a game, 26. I mean, they have done their best to be ready and healthy at this time of the year when the schedule's backloaded, and now it's up to them to see if they can take this home and get this win, and then, of course, beat Ohio State.
All right, so you had Bedlam last weekend. That'd be fun no matter what. The last Bedlam, all the stuff that went back and forth, and then that game, the way that it was. You've called a lot of really memorable games. Where would you put last week, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma?
It's really high. We've been on a roll lately. I thought the game a couple of weeks ago with Cal and USC was the most fun I've ever had at 50-49 with all the bizarre and unique situations. This was just fun because what a glorious day. 70 degrees, sunshine. I think it was the hardest ticket my partner said he's tried to get in 20-some years of doing this as far as buying tickets through the schools or on a secondary site. And it, it had a feel of something special. And in part, these coaches did a great job kind of downplaying the rivalry going away. But the 60,000 fans in that stadium, that was why they were there. And to watch Oklahoma State pull it out, they went for it twice on fourth downs and easily makeable field goal range, didn't get it. There were some turnovers, and yet still the Cowboys found a way to win. They stormed the field, and they had a grand old time. So the spectacle of it for me was a lot of fun to be a part of. And then the game was pretty darn good, too. And what a way to end a rivalry for Oklahoma State. It was 91-19-7 in favor of the Sooners before that win, but they'll savor that 20th win for a long time.
Wow, 91-20. Yeah, that's wild. Brett, Arkansas was able to get a conference win. The ball kind of bounced our way. I mean, it did. We made enough winning plays to go down there and beat Florida. I think this Auburn team's going to be a little more disciplined than that Florida team. But we got Rocket Sanders back. If he's what are your odds on Arkansas being able to get a little win streak going on?
Well, it does seem like we kind of go week to week, and we react on this week what we saw last week, and good for the Hogs. I mean, I know Florida missed a field goal, and they missed an extra point. I was watching Kansas State and Texas. Kansas State missed a field goal, missed an extra point, losing overtime. It was the same philosophy for Florida, but Arkansas's offense just looked rejuvenated and better, and I'm hoping they can carry this over. That game against Missouri at the end of the year is going to be a tough one, but it would be nice to at least have the possibility of bowl eligibility if they can win this weekend. The one thing that's different about Auburn the last 2 weeks is that they've thrown the ball better. They have not been able to throw the ball at all for a bulk of the season with Peyton Thorne. Pretty good running the football. They don't seem to make mistakes. You're right. They've found ways to win some games. Their loss against Georgia was not bad. They've had a couple of close losses. I think maybe a 7 or 8 point loss to Ole Miss. So they've hung in there against good teams. They've beaten the teams they probably should win. They'll get to bowl eligibility next week against New Mexico State or some team if they don't win this one. But it does probably look like a little better matchup today than it would have 2 weeks ago, and in part because of what Arkansas did offensively with KJ and his crew and Rocket Sanders in Gainesville.
Well, you got a good one this weekend in Fort Worth with Texas at TCU. Now, I say a good one. Maybe if it would have been last year. TCU really struggling right now and really struggling to score in the Kendall Briles offense. And I know they've had injuries at quarterback, but they've dropped 4 of 5. Wouldn't it be something? They got Texas, Baylor, and Oklahoma there. They need 2 wins to make a bowl game. Wouldn't it be something if the national runner-up doesn't even make a bowl game the next year, which I think is a legitimate possibility? And Texas gets yours back this weekend too, Brett.
Yeah, that's probably the storyline as far as Texas. Can they withstand the chaos that has engulfed this Big 12 for a bulk of the year? They are really close to just playing themselves out of the college football play if they haven't already. Another loss for Texas would certainly, I think, do that for the entire conference. Crazy things happen in November, and probably on paper this hasn't been our strongest matchup we've had. But I'm just curious if TCU can play one good game. Last year they won all the close games. This year they're losing all the close games. In past years, Texas has really not done well in those games decided by 4 to 7 points. They changed that this year with that exception of the crazy game against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. I was hoping I might even get to see a little Arch Manning if maybe Ewers wasn't quite ready to get back or not, but maybe we'll have a Ewers and a Chandler Morris matchup of some sort if these guys can get healthy. But I'm always curious to see the Longhorns because I feel like it's a little better team than they've had in years past. But my goodness, this Big 12 has just taken each other apart with some wild games and a lot of drama.
There's two 9-0 teams, Brett, that are hosting some other ranked teams. You got Georgia hosting Mississippi, and you have Washington hosting Utah. Which one of those has the better chance of getting an upset in unseating one of these undefeated teams?
Boy, that's a great question. I would probably, at first blush, talk about that Pac-12 matchup, but I just feel like Utah's struggled a bit, and Washington seems to be back on track after a couple of weeks where they were lackluster. I know the odds makers don't feel like Ole Miss has much of a shot against Georgia. I just feel like maybe Georgia is going to have one game where they stumble, and they've had enough talent to overcome some lackluster performances of their own. But that's a really good question. I don't know if I have a great answer for you. I got to feel like maybe Ole Miss, if they have one game in it, this could be the one where they could cause some problems and see if they could knock down Georgia. But Washington seems to at least be on that path towards playing Oregon again for maybe one of the 4 berths in early December.
You drive into Fort Worth, right? Please tell me you're driving.
I am not. I'm on a 6 a.m. flight Saturday. I have 2 basketball games Friday. Okay. Phil, not 1, but 2. The women's in the morning and the men's game at night.
You ready for Screaming Kids Day, Brett? You did baseball, minor league. You did some of those in baseball, right?
Yeah, but our people seem to be taking it to another level, don't they? I mean, we could have like 9 or 10,000 kids there at 9 a.m. and 9:30 just going at the top of their lungs for 2 hours.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts.